Welcome to the Digital Dream Off the Ground podcast. I'm your host, Austin Ali, and today's episode we'll be talking about the 85 Bears and the 84 Niners. So for the 84 Niners, 15-1, set numerous records. They went on to Super Bowl 19 where they faced off Dan Marino, Don Shula, and the Dolphins here in California, Stanford Stadium. Joe Montana, Ronnie Lott, Dwight Clark. It was the last season before Jerry Rice was drafted. Jerry Rice drafted that year, the following year, 1985. And, obviously Dan Marino set the record for obviously most yards in the season, got 5,084 yards and 48 touchdowns, which was a record that stood for 20 years. And the passing yard record stood for, if I'm not mistaken, 27 years around there before the TD record was booked by Peyton Manning in 2004, and the passing record was booked by Drew Brees in 2011. 2008? No, 2011, yeah. And so essentially, because Drew Brees got close to 2008. So essentially, man, I mean, it was just like, I personally was old enough to watch that. I was born 5 years after the Super Bowl, in 90, which is actually Joe's last Super Bowl right there. When he played against the Broncos, and the Niners set the margin for most, for both, actually they set both records, the highest points scored, most points scored in a Super Bowl, and the largest margin of victory. So in Super Bowl 24, 5 years later. So let's talk about the 84 Niners. I mean, that team was so loaded. They went 15-1 the regular season. They went on to win, every single game. And Joe, obviously, and the defense, when they actually had Joe and Dan, they had like a table talk a few years, a few years ago. Dan Marino said, "How did it feel to beat me in Super Bowl?" Joe said, "I'm not gonna lie to you, man. That defense is pretty tough." Ronnie Lott, Dwight Hicks. There's a lot of guys, Tina Turner, on that defense, who were just, dogs, you know what I mean? So, I think the 84 Niners, against them, let's go into the next season, the 85 Bears. The Bears had not won a Super Bowl up to that point. The Niners had already won one, prior to the 84 season. The Bears basically came in, Mike Ditka, you guys have seen the 30-30 on the Bears defense. Essentially, they showed Buddy Ryan, the 46 defense, my mistake. The Buddy Ryan was, they showed Mike Ditka in the war locker rooms when he was hired. I think his prior. He said, yeah, he's like a lot of you guys, a lot of you guys might be happier, but a lot of guys won't be here, when the season starts, prior to the 85 season. And lo and behold, that was the case. But, the 46 defense, inspired by the deceased player, and I apologize, I don't remember his name, escapes me, but obviously for me, living in Chicago, playing arena semi-pro ball for Chicago, the Bears, I'm tapped in, just to a degree. And so anyways, back to the point, the 85 Bears went 15-1 as well. And they basically ran roughshod all the way to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl against the Patriots. I think it was 46-20 on score. And they just dominated defensively. The monsters, the midway defense, with Mike Singletary, Dan Hampton, those guys. You also had guys like Leslie Frazier. You also had guys like Dave Duerson. A bunch of great players on that defense. Walter Payne, coming out of the backfield. Jim McMahon, serviceable QB. In his prime, he was pretty good as a quarterback. He was a really good quarterback, when needed in clutch game situations. So, the Bears were a great team to watch, for me, just on film. But essentially, I think, if the 85 Bears and the 84 Niners play each other, the question is who would win? I think, I'm a Niners fan, but I'd probably have to go with the Bears. Only because the Bears, had just one of the most dominating defenses and dominant run games with dominant offensive lines, in NFL history. Then again, everyone said that about the Dolphins heading into Super Bowl 19. One of my good friends, one of my coaches actually told me that, when he was in high school, that's when the Bears and the Niners, the Dolphins and the Niners were playing Super Bowl 19. And everyone who was a Niner fan was giving shit, saying, "Oh yeah, Denver's gonna blow you out. Denver's gonna do this. Denver's gonna do that." And then the game started, and then second half, and the Niners just simply dominated, 30-16. And Don Shula and that coaching. So maybe the Niners, maybe Bill Walsh's genius would prevail. The Niners beat the Bears, in the NFC Championship game a few years later. And the 80s were just a hallmark of great NFC teams and great NFC defenses. Obviously, the Niners had Ronnie Lott. The Bears had Mike Singletary, amongst others, and Richard Dent. And then the Giants had Lawrence Taylor, LT, and Harry, I forgot his last name. Yeah, Harry Carson, I believe, the other linebacker coming out with the Giants. So a bunch, multiple Hall of Famers on the defensive side of the ball in the 80s. And obviously the style of play was so much more physical. It was so much more fun to watch, if you're a fan of physicality, right? Obviously the game got much safer because of the concussion protocol and the knowledge we have now about concussions, which is now good for player safety. There's a lot more awareness and knowledge. A lot more players can, kind of be safeguarded and protected from that. So, but yeah, I think the 85 Niners, the 86 Bears, two of the greatest teams of all time. Sorry, the 84 Niners and the 85 Bears, the 85 Super Bowl and the 86 Super Bowl, respectively, Super Bowl 19, Super Bowl 20. Two of the greatest, teams of all time. Shout out my boy Lofa Tupu. His dad, Moses Tupu, was on the Patriots, back in Super Bowl 20, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and so he basically got to play, with that Patriots team that played against the 85 Bears in the Super Bowl. So I mean, you guys can say what you think. Whatever your opinion is, feel free to share. But yeah, I mean, I just think the 85 Bears. People give the 72 Dolphins the greatest team of all time label because it's the first team, the only team undefeated. But I personally would give that to the Bears, for the 85 Bears, because Mike Singletary said it best after the Super Bowl. You don't have to go undefeated to be the best team in the NFL and be the best team of all time. There's too much, firepower offensively on the Bears, both on the run game, and then obviously on the defense side of the ball, which was just eating, just generating turnover after turnover after turnover. So I think these are the reasons why I think the Bears were the greatest team in NFL history. But yeah, the 84 Niners, the 89 Niners, and even the 94 Niners, they all have a case as well, with the greatest quarterback, of all time to that point with Joe Montana, and then obviously Steve Young, 94. But, I mean, it's just, it depends on your preference and what you look for. But, anyways, that's just my take on the 85 Bears versus the 84 Niners. Let me know what you guys think, and thank you for tuning this episode.